This is the virtual unit preview for the playwriting unit, which is the second unit in the 7th grade semester. These are the things we're going to be looking at. Hopefully this video will be much shorter than the first 7th grade one I posted. Sorry about that. So just as a reminder, 7th grade we're working on building backstage skills since 6th grade was focusing on acting skills. They've just come out of their theater careers unit where they researched a specific theater career. And now we're diving into the first of 3 units that's actually specific on one of those careers. So this one is on playwriting. You'll see that then builds into costume design and then into directing at the end of the semester. All right, so we're going to quickly run through the important things about each of the days in this unit and then go over the summative assessment and then a couple quick notes and we'll be done. So the first day is just talking about what a play is, what makes a good play. If you're going through this unit in a more detailed way than we're going to in this video, you'll notice that there's a lot of things brought up in the key points section, which is that big third column. I sort of bop all over the place and cover a lot of things and don't go very deep into them. You are welcome to pick 1 or 2 of those and really, I almost said depth in, that's not a word, and really deepen the scholar's understanding of that and shift focus away from other things. I would encourage you to choose aesthetics as one of the things you're really choosing to deepen their understanding on, because that word comes from the statement of inquiry and it's one of the concepts that this unit is built around, so it's important not to cut that. So first day is talking about what makes a good play. It's a review of plot structure. I do this a lot when I have kids write for me. It's a great way to tie back into ELA. It should be a review for them by the time they hit 7th grade. Talking about exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. It feels like it's a lot of information on this day, but the first chunk should be review, and the next 2 things should be new information, so there's kind of tiers of things going on. So the next 2 days, day 2 and 3, we're going to be reading Trifles, which is the play I give the kids to read. To be honest, it is a stretch for 7th grade, but it's an achievable stretch. Especially when you are really active in making sure that they understand what's going on. It's a mystery play, and the characters are solving the mystery as you go through it, and so helping the kids stop and figure things out with, and sometimes even ahead of the characters, really invests them in what's going on. I make sure that they know what's happening. It was written in the early 1900s, and so some of the language and cultural things are a little foreign to them. And so on these days, this is time to go through and talk about whichever of the elements of a play you have decided to bring out. Again, I spend a whole second day on aesthetics while we're reading so that they get a sense of that. Again, it's part of the statement of inquiry. It's also something they're assessed on in the rubric at the end, so that's really important. They don't know this is working on their inferencing skills. I usually tell them after they've done it that that's what this is, since that's something they are tested on a lot and something that at least scholars at my school usually struggle with. So after we read Trifles, which I put up as an example of what a good play looks like and reads like, then they get to start working on their own play. This is usually the point where I give them the rubric for their project. And the idea for this summative assessment, and we'll talk in more detail later, is that they get an abstract image and they are required to sort of take that and sort of find images in it the way you find shapes in clouds and use those as inspiration for a play that they write. So the first day, they get their image. I have a worksheet that's really structured about how to break that image down and turn it into things that they can see and understand, and then start transferring that over into a plot. The abstract images genuinely scare some of my kids. Like, they freak out or they get very upset and they're like, I don't like abstract art. And so having a process where you can break it down and be like, no, look, you can see, even if it's just, it kind of looks like a turtle, great. write me a play about a turtle. That helps them figure out how to think about it, and that's a skill, obviously, that they can transfer over into art class as well. The next day, we do a quick mini lesson on script formatting to make sure they've read a script now, they know what that looks like, but to make sure they know what it's supposed to look like on a page. And then they start working on their script. I find it helpful to set a goal for the end of the day. Everyone's got to get here. I'm going to put a stamp, or I'm going to put a check mark on my sheet, on my clipboard, or whatever, to help them stay focused. Work days can kind of go all over the place. Then I make them have that rough draft complete by the time they come back to me. So that they can, even if they're not quite done, give it to a partner. They can do some edits. They can get some feedback from another scholar and from me. I have a worksheet called Dynamic Dialogue that I got from Theater Folk that I have them read on that day as well, to make sure as they're going through and editing, they're making their language as good as possible. The feedback that you give them and the feedback that the kids should give them should be focused on what's in the rubric. And so having a protocol for your kids based around what's in the rubric, if that's just focused on like one section of it or however you want to structure it, is really helpful, so they're not getting advice that's way off in left field. This is their very last work day. Everything that they're doing is supposed to be done before they leave class. If you are being kind to little humans, you can have them give them to you, their final scripts, when they come back to class the next day. But I find it helpful to collect as many of the final scripts as possible at the end of this class, so that you can have them ready for day 8, which is the day when they actually go around and critique each other's plays, and then they give themselves kind of some reflective feedback on the aesthetics in their play, which they get a grade on. And then that last day, day 9, is the reflection day I do at each of my units. You know what that looks like. I don't need to go into it. Okay. Are we recording? We are! Fantastic. We'll just cut that part. Okay. So the summative assessment is to write a play, but the structure, the situation that I give the scholars is that they are submitting plays to the Irving Fine Arts Festival. This is something that is familiar to them because we do an Infinity Fine Arts Festival at the end of each semester. So I tried to take that idea and expand it. So the idea is they have gotten a piece of art that's created by another artist in Irving, and they are writing a play based on it. And then on that final day where they're giving each other critiques, I guess the next to final day, because you have the reflection day at the end, I have one of my teacher's assistants or some kids who'd like to help out. We go through and we hang the scripts and the pictures on the walls all the way around my room, so it feels like you're walking through an art gallery. And I tell the kids that we're gonna just be at the Fine Arts Festival that day, and so sometimes I provide like some healthy snacks, or I give them a little more freedom to do it. The kids who really like to act and like to sort of be silly, they love this idea that they get to come into class and just sort of be snooty arts people or whatever they want to be that day. But it's just a chance for us to look at each other's work. It's not always super efficient. I'm still working on that, but it gets each scholar to read more scripts by their peers in one class than I have found another way to do. So I appreciate that. It says, hold on, I'm going back. It says on here that the best plays will be chosen. That means all of them. All of them are the best. Again, this is a place where I come back and I make sure that they know how to write a story that's in those 5 parts of plot structure as a way to connect to ELA. I've also made some sort of arbitrary like length and how many characters, so that I know that the kids are just have some kind of formatting that helps some people. I'm one of those people. I like that kind of layout so that I have some idea of what I need to do. And again, at the bottom it says that there are planning sheets. Usually those planning sheets have to be turned in before you can start writing your rough draft or before you can start working on your final draft, wherever those planning sheets fall in the process, so that I can check them off. So this is a unit where we're evaluating 3 of the IB criterion. So we're looking at A2, at B1, and at C3. So A2, which is one, if you ask me, one of the most vaguey McVague faces IB criterion we have, that they have knowledge of the role of the art form in original or displaced contexts. So what that has translated to in this project is that they know how to get an inspiration from their art, and that the process of this is what I see in this weird abstract art piece to this is the story I wrote is really clear. That I understand how they relate, and that they properly identify their own aesthetics. That's something they do on that Fine Arts Festival day, which brings us back to one of the concepts that we're assessing. Then criterion B is really about nuts and bolts. It's formatting, it's grammar, is it clean and legible, and does it have the pieces of plot structure? And then criterion C, which is thinking creatively, is about how many characters and is it unique? And mostly when I'm talking about unique, I mean that they didn't write me It, the movie, anyway. I had lots of kids who essentially wrote me the story of It, and they just changed all the characters' names and made it like a scary dog or whatever they saw in their little art piece instead of a clown. So as long as it's not directly derivative, they get full points on that. I did in one of my previous videos showing you how I go through and grade these, so if you are curious about how I grade, I would suggest going through and watching the end of the pantomime video, because we are going to move on. So this is a unit that's built for 7th grade. If you are interested in adjusting this to either teach it to 6th grade or to a grade higher than 7th, here's some of my my thoughts. So you can obviously change the length requirement, and you can change the plot requirement. If you're moving this down, maybe just thinking about it as a beginning, middle, and end. If you're moving it up different grades, you can talk about things like maybe you want them to include really specific kinds of inciting action. You want to do other kinds of things depending on, I would check in, honestly, with the ELA teacher and see how you can help in that area. You can change how they're getting their inspiration. If you're scaffolding it down for 6th grade, I'd give them something more concrete. If you're moving them up, I'd give them something that's increasingly abstract, or take away some of the scaffolding about how to think about it, or just taking it away entirely, or almost entirely. You can also adjust this by changing which play they read before they write a play. If this is a moment where you need to spend more time or would like to spend more time in this unit, this is a great place to read a full-length play. If you're talking about still this age level, I love The Miracle Worker. I don't have time to teach it anymore. I think that plays really on level for most of our kids, or it's enough of a challenge that they're working but they can meet it. And I think it has some themes that are really resonant with 7th grade, middle school, that age group in general. So those are my thoughts on how to scaffold this unit if you'd like to teach it to someone who's not in 7th grade. And then differentiation, again, those 3 categories, ELL, low scholars, and high scholars. You can see here sort of the differentiation I'm making for each of those groups, as well as any of those scaffolding things we just talked about. If you feel like you can apply those individually, those are also really good options. You know how to get a hold of me. Here's my email again in case you forgot, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.